Recording. Your computer, the cloud. Oh,
Next to her, just the camera was off.
good morning, everybody. Thank you for checking in.
Gary?
Um, I, give you a quick update on Randy while, to start off. He's headed off to Tennessee today to visit his aunt, who is a professor, medical, professor at Vanderbilt, I believe. And has been there for years, and actually she's, been helping him, through, his process, and it, looks like June 1st may be his quote release date. And that would get him, back, working, with us, which will be very nice, so absolutely. He'll be back, he'll be down in Tennessee for, I think, a week. It's taking a little time. Okay, agenda. So, first thing on the agenda is the Anywhere, Bayris and NAR settlements regarding the lawsuit. This is very interesting that, just as, you know, we thought this was all going away, yesterday the headline was buyers seek surprise injunction to halt commission suit settlements. So, a bunch of plaintiffs in one of these lawsuits has filed a temporary restraining order preventing the approval of the Keller Williams Anywhere and Remax settlements in this case. So, the court had, originally kind of granted, preliminary approval of the settlements. And now they're being challenged, so we haven't heard the end of it yet. But it does look like the momentum will carry through on these settlements. I am seeking from Anywhere. Anywhere, as you know, is the parent corporation for Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's, Corcoran, ERA, Century 21. So, Anywhere had to make a separate settlement because they aren't covered in the NAR settlement. And I'm trying to get the details of that because they agreed to certain things. But just as NAR did, I'm pretty sure to mirror everything in the NAR settlement. But in the meantime, I did find out that, BHG in the Be Better University has a buyer agency and cooperating compensation hub. And this has a number of courses in it. Buyer talk
Track.
talk track.
Yeah.
And seller talk track and the buyer process.
Straightforward.
So, these are in the Be Better University and, can recommend that you, watch them. I will send out a link when I send out the recording, for, these modules. But these are all training modules that, BHG has done on, buyer broker representation.
Yeah.
So that's good. I had a couple things to cover, current challenges. So, try to stop that share. And, reshare. I'm not as sophisticated as Roger with these presentations, so, you have to just bear with me. Okay, and in fact, I didn't even put this on the screen, so I'll just read it out loud. The current buyer challenges, or current challenges in the industry. Disruption around the way the money flows. We've had a process where, you know, the sellers always paid, you know, without question, the buyer agent's commission, and now that's been disrupted. We have to do different processing, so that's the challenge. Confusion in your peer group and brokerage. There can be continuing confusion about how we're gonna deal with this. You know, if you watch the spring legal update on Monday, there's 60 changes in the forms coming out in the June release. Most of them are minor, but there are some major changes in the forms, so that creates confusion. Relentless questioning of your value by the media. Okay, so we read in the newspaper, you know, different headlines about that. There were several surveys done of buyers and sellers by a few different groups in the industry, 1000-watt being one of them there. And they found, the question was, is the amount that realtors earn in a transaction fair? Is it fair amount? 51% of those polled said yes. Agents are paid a fair amount. It's the right amount. 7% said they believe they were underpaid. That's nice, right? But that leaves 40% who believe we were overpaid. Right, so even though the majority feels we're either paid correctly or underpaid, there's a large percentage of folks out there still feel we're overpaid. So that's part of these questions that we're dealing with. And the challenges, we got relentless questioning of our value. Another challenge, unclear rules and boundaries for the path forward. You know, we still need to know the final rules under which we're going to operate and when they're going to be effective. I think in the legal update, they said now the target date is August 17th. And then I don't know what this last one means. Some of your peers changing the traditions. I don't know what that actually means. Okay, so your choices. There's three choices you have. You can be a denier. You can be a catastrophe, that has to do with catastrophe. Or you can be a rational adapter. If you're a denier, you're saying everything's fine, nothing will change. Okay, so you're in denial. A catastrophizer says the real estate will never recover. How will we ever make any money? So same people say prices are going to fall. And then the rational adapter accepts the new reality, commits to flexibility, leverages the circumstances to a strategic advantage. So Roger's and my job is to help us all be better rational adapters. He's talked about this in the past. This relates to other activities, but it certainly applies to these activities. Okay, tips for having difficult conversations with your clients. Avoid intellectual laziness. And so going to learn, take these courses and learn. Slow down, listen more. What's the ratio, Roger? It should be 90% listening, 10%.
90% listening, yeah, 10% talking.
Right.
Yeah.
Increase your curiosity. Ask questions. Be curious. Speak the truth, simply and plainly. Use good word budgeting. I think I've used the term, don't be a fogger. Don't go on and on. Budget your words. Get to the point. Assume your client wants you to win. Your client is our supporter. They aren't trying to beat us up, so we want us to win. Okay, so those are
Great points.
challenges, choices, and tips. And next thing on the agenda is spring legal update. Anyone have any comment? Questions on the legal update? Who watched it? I got calls immediately from a few people after the presentation with situations that were covered, and they said, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? So we talked about those. These are designed to scare you, so Julie, you have a question?
Yeah, they always scare me too. And I think it's just the 3 points you say, you know, you want to deny, you want to run away, you want to be confused, whatever. I think it's almost like the 12 steps. That whole thing is like, you know, you have to go through the all of those things before you finally become rational. And then the other comment that I wanted to say was in regards to the percentages. I think that falls down to you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time. And
Mhm.
some people just never want to be pleased. They don't know how.
Good point,
Good points, yeah,
good point.
very good points.
And sometimes we run into those clients and we don't want to work with them. That's okay too. So a couple of things that I took away from the legal update. Of course, we're gonna have these new forms and we'll be deep diving into those. I think they said that the next presentation will be in the first Monday in June. And it will cover the new forms. So we'll get plenty of notice, but mark it on your calendar now, first Monday of noon, 9:30. The BRM webinar on the new forms that will be issued by CAR. The other thing I learned and confirmed with Bill and Shannon yesterday is that the broker, the BRBC, broker representation buyer compensation form calls for the broker's signatures. Just like the RLA, the listing residential listing agreement calls for the broker's signatures. It is okay for the agent to sign on behalf of the broker. I don't want to be signing 400 forms.
Really? Oh,
Yeah. So you can sign on behalf of the brokerage those forms. In fact, the new form, what they told me is the new form will allow agent signature. So they don't need to be, you don't need to send me every buyer broker agreement, huh?
you don't want to get 400.
I don't want to get 400 forms. I'm just trying to kind of limit my exposure. So I do believe what Bill said was the new form will make it clear that the agent can sign those forms. Now, because it's a legal document and a legal agreement with our client, we need a copy of it. Just like we need copies of listing agreements. The DRE wants us to have that, you know, as part of our, we made a contract with the public. The broker has to review it, which we do, and keep a record of it. So they do need to be sent, when you sign a buyer broker agreement, they do need to be sent to our TCs. And I haven't gone over this with Katie yet. Is Katie on the call? No. Let's see Katie. But she's not one of the tile people this morning. Katie will have to develop a system where we park these things because they aren't all going to go through, you know. We may have a buyer broker agreement and then the buyer never buys them. But it's like when we have an escrow that falls apart, we have to keep that file, and we can't keep it under that address, so we keep it under a DFT file.
Would it be easier? Do you remember when we used to have to sign the COVID entry forms? I forget what it was called. There was an email address we just used to send them to.
Yes, yeah, we'll probably do something like that.
Okay.
That's a good idea. So we'll set up a system. I don't know if you could hear Parmita, but she was suggesting that we have buyer broker agreements at one.loop.com. And you just send them there and then we'll deal with them on our end as a broker. Yeah, Julie? Julie, you have a question?
Yeah, it would help to unmute myself.
Okay,
Am I understanding that you want us to send you all of our information, even if it doesn't happen? I mean, I will put together when I have a contract signed as a listing agreement, then I'm gonna send that on to the TC and fill out my TIF form. And then periodically I'll update that as I get the buyer, but I like to get that going up front.
right.
But I don't do any of that. And like the buyer broker agreement, I have a file for my client to go in. And then I'll put all of that together when we locate the property and we have an accepted offer. But up until that point, I kind of just hang on to it until I need. Is that okay to do that?
I believe what they want us to do is when you sign a buyer representation broker compensation form. Or any of those other forms that are contractually binding between. Us as the broker and the client. That the broker needs to keep a record of them, so you would send them to us at the time they're signed. Just like you do with a listing agreement. There wouldn't be a TIS form because there's nothing to reference, there's no property addresses or something. But as we'll probably have this system where you send them to BRBC forms at winecountrygroup.com. And then we'll have a repository file for them, for the broker's record. That's probably how it'll work. And as with all forms in any transaction, I've always found it most helpful to send them as you get them, not to wait till the end. It helps the TCs in keeping the file organized. And it helps you and not have to remember to send them later. You can just send them at the time you get them. That's it's always been my practice. Yeah, Julie.
The other question would be, would we have like a North Coast or wherever I am? Because there's Wine Country Group and then there's Super North.
Well, we'll probably just have one address for it. I don't know what that address will be yet, but it's just so we get the forms in the proper file because the broker is all the same. So. Okay, any other comments on the spring legal update? All right, market updates. Well, inventory is growing, and I hope you all are recognizing that. Looking here at the Sonoma County inventory, year over year is up 52%. On a year over year basis, so sales are also up. In fact, I can share this one.
Isn't it nice to hear for once?
Yeah.
It's so nice to hear some good news.
So you can see here, this is a Triton Graphics report from Veris. The light green line on the far right is inventory. That's for April, the end of April 2024. If you go back to April 2023, you can see it's a much lower line there. Sales probably peaked exceeded any month for the last 12 months, it looks like. This form has this little area just below the graph. So current months versus same month last year is up 52%. Closings were up 17%. Sales were up 15%. So this is all good activity. Hopefully we're getting better, more than our fair share, as they like to say.
Yep.
If you haven't used these Triton Graphics, they're in part of your Veris subscription. This is data I use to develop my blog every month. But just for your information, days on market was 52. This is in Sonoma County. Property sold at 99% of original list price, which is strong. And the median sales price was 812,000 versus 818,000 a year ago. Median price can flip around depending on what's happening in the market. I do another graph, another form.
Julie has a question.
All right, hold on just a sec. That's a price reduction.
Do we
I'll get
have
you this.
current,
Put you in a second. Okay. Okay. So this is a form I use to track the actual average sales price over time. Not expecting you to understand this necessarily, but this is for Sonoma County. And it shows that the cumulative average price in April 2024 was $1,016,000. A year ago it was 987. So that's an increase of 3%. So that's the number I would use, as opposed to the median price on a month-to-month basis, because this is a 12-month running average. You can see our sales volume is still down and on a year-over-year basis, on a 12-month running basis at 10% below, but that's narrowing. And as our increased sales on a month-to-month basis, that'll start probably in another 3 or 4 months. I imagine that'll be flat or positive on a year-over-year basis. Okay, Julie.
do we have data for all the different counties, Gary?
I do try to develop some data for Eureka and Humboldt County. So I've started doing that in the blog. You'll see it later on in about a week when I get the blog published. Because we are doing it, I do it for each county where we're doing the business. Any of you have a comment on the market? do you
Yes,
think?
Gary.
Yeah,
Hi.
Alex.
Alex is here. This is not scientific, but just observing what's going on Redfin and Zillow. I noticed that closing prices for a lot of sales have been higher than asking prices, and I'm just wondering the whole idea of like, is that because of insurance? Or I mean, like I said, this is not scientific, I'm conjecturing here, but I don't see a big, a glut of buyers going after the same properties, but they're closing at a higher than asking price, and I'm just wondering if that's the result of the insurance situation.
I wouldn't say that. I think more likely it's just an offer. A buyer came in, saw the property he wanted to buy, and offered in excess of asking price.
We've seen more multiple offers in Santa Rosa and Petaluma. in the
Yeah,
last
he's saying
2
that
weeks.
they aren't seeing multiple offers, but he's still seeing that phenomenon of the price being in
Oh.
excess of the original list price. I know personally, I had clients who wanted a specific unit in a specific place. We found a place that was coming on the market, it was coming soon. They made a preemptive offer in excess of the asking price and it was accepted, so there was never multiple offers. Because they just wanted they were aggressive about their offer. Same thing happened in a listing one of our agents had down. They were expecting multiple offers, they never got them. But it was still in the first week, so the offer that did come in was aggressive and was in excess of asking price. So I think
Okay.
it's just that's probably what's happening now.
All right, thank you.
Let me see if I had. what I was going to refer to there. Oh, price reductions, okay, hold on a second. We do see, here we go. This is one other additional study I do, which is price reductions. And this is shows for the various counties, and I'll work Humboldt into this, Julie, before, so. But it shows the number, let's take just the top line there, Mendocino County. If you go to the far right, in April, 30% of the properties, is that 30%, 36, took a price reduction before they sold. So, 14% took, was sold at over list price. And in total, 68% took a price reduction at the time they sold. So they may not have been reduced during the process, but they still sold for less than the asking price. Now, we just saw in Sonoma County that the average or the homes that sold in April sold at 99% of original list price. Now, if you look at Sonoma there, the third column or third row down, there were 20% of the homes took price reduction before they sold, so they weren't at 99%. 42% sold over list price, and 42% sold at total homes sold under list price. So you can see that where we got the 99% because 42% over, 42% under, we're right at about 100%. So it's you know, on a nationwide basis, it's interesting that this trend of price reductions as we get more inventory, sellers are wanting to sell, so they're reducing the prices. It may lead to flat or maybe even reduced average sales prices over the course of the year as inventory grows. Normally, inventory will grow, we're still in April, or we're in May now, through the end of June. We'll continue to see the spring market and growing inventory, and then it would usually slow down. Yeah, Mark? Hello, Mark?
Unmute yourself, Mario.
Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself,
Are you
Mario.
talking to yourself?
There you go.
I'm so interesting. Was anything said about the insurance situation? I just, don't know what we should say to our clients regarding that.
We usually say, go get it. Go get insurance as soon as you can. Because it is a problem. And it varies from week to week, really. We hear when companies coming in, we hear companies going out. We hear they're just, laying off, if you will, properties, and then they come back in the market and take on new properties. So if you're working with a buyer, just like getting a pre-approved for a loan, I would say, talk to your insurance, at the very beginning, talk to your insurance agent. If you don't have one, I'll give you one, a couple that you can talk to and get that process started. Because it's a very important and unknown factor in the equation right now.
Has anybody lost a deal because they couldn't get insurance?
I know a client who lost $200,000 in a deposit because they walked away from a purchase because they couldn't get insurance.
Really?
They had no contingency, so
They could afford it, obviously.
but
Yeah.
they didn't have, so they had to remove that contingency.
They had removed their contingencies
Oh.
and then it turned out they couldn't get insurance.
Mhm.
They couldn't buy it without, I mean, it was a cash purchase. They could have bought it without insurance, but they didn't want to. I did have a question the other day. I think it was our stellar agent, Mary, asked me, what was your question?
I don't know which one it is.
It had to do with insurance. But it was that, the buyer, oh, I know. They didn't have insurance on the property yet, should they close?
Oh,
Because it was a cash
Oh.
purchase, it was a cash purchase.
That's right.
They could close, but they didn't have insurance yet. And I said, I think it would be prudent to wait until they get insurance.
And we did. And we
Okay,
are.
yeah, okay,
And Gary, I had a couple things.
yeah.
One, on insurance, I don't know if this will help or if you want to do this, but this is what I do. I add to my offer on the purchase agreement contingent upon getting insurance. I add that to it. And then secondly, what I do is as soon as the offer is accepted, I tell my people, now, go get insurance right away.
Yeah.
We're accepted, now go get it. That's how I do it. And if you're working with California Fair Plan, which most of us are right now, then at least 3 weeks before you get your
to know.
insurance. So just so you know, I just wanted to share that with
Yeah. Thank you, Mary.
you.
Kathy wrote something in the chat. Could you check that out, Kylie? Let's know what that said.
She said, I've lost a deal, HOA lost insurance and doesn't have 100% replacement value, so doesn't meet Fannie and Freddie guidelines.
Yeah.
When deals have HOA, get the master insurance policy to be sure that they have coverage.
But it
Yeah, very good point, Kathy. We had another case in Napa where our agent was making an offer, an FHA offer on a PUD HOA with an HOA. And the listing agent didn't know if it was FHA approved or not.
Hmm.
So they chose another offer because they didn't want the FHA loan. And they didn't want to go through that process of finding out whether it was approved or not. Okay, any haves or wants to share before we get on to Roger's ruminations? Yes,
I have a new listing, at 4461 Abbey Lane in Santa Rosa. It's a single level, 3-bedroom, 2-bath on a large lot, it's 15,000 square foot lot. The inside is partially redone, they've redone, all of the interior paint, flooring, nice new living area. The kitchen is original. It's on septic as well, which we're getting reports back on, and it's gonna be priced at $880. And it should be on by Friday, tomorrow.
great.
Oh, and if anyone would like to help with the broker's tour or an open house, let me know.
All right, open house opportunity.
I
Contact
might be
Bonita.
interested, Parmita.
Cherie says it.
I may be interested. I'll text you if that's okay
Okay.
directly. Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other haves ones? I know Liz.
I have a
had-
question.
Yes, Rebecca.
I happen to be filling out a purchase agreement while we chat here. And I'm wondering, actually, never mind. I'm not gonna ask you guys. I'm gonna ask somebody else. But thank you so far.
We love our Rebecca,
All right, Rebecca.
the best.
Yes. All right, well, if you want to chime back in, just let us know. Yeah, so Liz is, out of town on a family business. I saw she had a new listing come up here in Santa Rosa this week. So that's great. Anyone else?
Mary Johnson.
Yeah,
Mari?
hi. I thought that in the legal update that they said something about people who weren't on the listing doing open houses. Does anybody recall that and what was said?
Well, the ruling, the guidelines are we cannot do open houses for brokerages other than our own.
Yeah,
So that's, I think also what they spoke about was what would be required under this new findings for getting a buyer to sign, a visitor to an open house to sign something along the buyer broker agreement. And the conclusion is no, if you're doing the open house for the seller only, as a service to the seller, then you aren't serving the buyer, and we don't need the form of the buyer.
good.
If you are doing the open house and looking to pick up buyers, and that's often why we do open houses. Then you would, if you want to work with the buyer, you're gonna need to sign an agreement.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Julie?
Also, Mary, they have a new form. When we go over all the new forms, there's a
Uh-huh.
new form that's coming that has to do with open houses, like a sign-in sheet.
Oh, okay, great.
Kathy's asking, when the listing agreement changes, will we be, needing to relist properties? Perhaps. We won't know until the form is out and we're told whether we need to assign new forms or not. So we'll keep you advised on that.
Okay.
Rebecca, you figured out what you're doing there.
Yeah, I guess I figured out how to ask it. So
Okay.
in the E1 on a purchase agreement in the loan amount section, there's a part at the bottom that says 17 in parentheses blank days after acceptance. But there's also is that speaking of the loan contingency? What is, or is that like when, because there's another box for loan contingency days, and so I don't understand why there's two references to
All right.
to the number of days for the loan.
Okay, well, I can't visualize exactly what form, you know, you're talking about the grid and the RPA. But I can't visualize the checkboxes.
Yeah. I figured
So-
I would just ask in case somebody knew what I was talking about and could
Yeah,
explain.
I'll bring that up in the next, I'll make a note of it and bring it up in the next contract training, which will be a week from tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other have ones to share? Going once, going twice. So, Rogers, ruminations, what has Roger got?
Yeah, and thank you, Gary.
Yes,
Would you mind sharing my slides for me, Carol, if possible? And just while you were talking, Gary, just interesting the power of the brand of BHG, that they're on top of these things, providing training modules, getting ahead of the curve, allowing us to be proactive rather than reactive to the market. And I enjoy working with the power of the brand for that reason. And also interesting that they're talking about us continually having our value questioned. It's a great opportunity for us to decide to go professional, right? And step up, and what do we actually stand for other than I'm just a realtor in Sonoma County. Just, you know, being a little more powerful about that. So let me see if my slides are working here. It should be. There we go. All right. Again, Gary and Randy, thank you for inviting me into your dining room. You always do this. You invite me into your house. I appreciate it very much. I like that new picture of Randy, and Gary, I like the sunny top. The sunny top looks good. And so, can we control the narrative about what's going on with interest rates? Can we control the narrative, because we are seen as the trusted agent? Can we give answers that reduce fear?
Unless I'm gonna pick them up from the shop, because you have.
Rebecca.
All right, yeah, very good. All right, so what's going on? What's the
You went on mute.
Accidentally muted Roger, sorry.
No problem.
Okay, you're good.
It's a fun day, right? It's all good. It's all good. It's a happy Thursday. Are we good there, Carly?
I think so.
All right. Okay, so of all the predictions to make, mortgage rates seem to be the one that is the most difficult to predict. And I've got to tell you, with all my loan originators, they're not having as many discussions about interest rate at the moment. It's almost like the market has realized the interest rates are going to remain a little higher than we thought that we wanted them to be. They're going to drift down, but it's time to get into the marketplace. Why? Prices continue to go up. The demand is there. And so we are slowly returning to what could be called a normal market, right? So let's just continue. Would you mind clicking somewhere on the screen? Otherwise it won't work. Right. So the biggest thing we're looking at across the board now, across the board, is volatility. And can you explain that? Why is volatility the biggest thing? This is a comment from Nicole Bouchard, the senior economist from Zillow. And if you look at the daily mortgage rates, last Friday, the mortgage rates dipped down. Why? Can we explain it? Why? It's because the unemployment rate was a little higher than was expected. So that affected the mortgage rates. You can see how volatile things are. And according to Odetta Cushy, the deputy chief economist at First American, every month brings a new set of inflation and labor data that can influence the direction of mortgage rates. That's the volatility, right? Ongoing inflation deceleration, which is a good thing, a slowing economy, and even geopolitical uncertainty can contribute to lower the mortgage rates. So it's not just the Fed. All these things affect it as well. And sometimes it's priced in already. On the other hand, data that signals an upside to risk inflation may result in higher rates. NerdWallet said it very well. Mortgage rates are influenced by many elements, including the inflation rate, the pace of job creation, and whether the economy is growing or shrinking. The Fed Reserve's monetary policy is a factor too. So it's not just the Fed. There are so many other factors that influence volatility in this particular time. Can we explain it? Is this helpful to take a chart like this and help you to use your words when you're in front of people who are filled with fear? False. Mortgage rates are indirectly influenced by the Fed Reserve's monetary policy, not direct. See, indirect. When the central bank raises the federal target rates, as they did in 22 and 23, it has a knock-on effect by causing short-term interest rates to go up. So the latest Fed decision as of May 1st is they're going to maintain the target federal range. Now it comes the thing, are they going to reduce a rate cut in September? Are they going to wait until after the election? All this talk starts, right? Now the volatility starts all over again, okay? So the committee's assessment will take into account a wide range of information. Labor market conditions, inflation pressures, expectations, financial and international developments. Even the Fed doesn't quite know what's going to happen, right? So they're watching all these things happen. That's why we're getting to the point in the marketplace where the interest rates have come down a little. They seem to have gone sideways a little bit, but it's time to move forward. It's that general sentiment. CNBC, the US economy added fewer jobs than expected in April, while the unemployment rate rose, lifting hopes that the Fed Reserve will be able to cut interest rates in the coming months. The unemployment rate ticked higher to 3.9 against expectations it would hold steady at 3.8. So it went up to 3.9. Oh, the economy is cooling. Interest rates start to come down a little bit. Look at the unemployment rate change. You can see, let me see if this will work. I don't think it will. It doesn't work on a TV screen. Isn't it interesting? But you can see over here, that line that goes across here. This is on average, the unemployment rate is 5.7. And that little bar at the end, that little red bar, went from 3.8 to 3.9. Ooh, my goodness, what terrible number, even though it's below the average, but it's showing that the economy may be cooling a little. So that brings the interest rates down a little bit. So it's not just the Fed day to day, it's all the feelings and sentiments in the market. That's what volatility means, right? Danielle Hale, the chief economist from Realtor.com. Today's cooler labor market is a sign that mortgage rate relief could be on the horizon, could. But that will be dependent on inflation. So we may see an unseasonably active summer and fall if inflation improves and mortgage rates drop. So hope on the horizon. Nobody quite knows. Do you think Israel and Palestine are going to make the situation worse? Is the war with Russia and Ukraine going to affect? All these things cause volatility. Otherwise, inventory is still low, prices continue to appreciate, people are sitting on massive amounts of equity in their homes, and it's time to just keep moving forward. We can't wait for the interest rates continuously. Inflation continues to exceed the target rate. Again, look at where inflation was. Look at where it was. So the Fed policy, no doubt, had some influence in making it more expensive to borrow money. But you can see at that last little bar, they were hoping it was going to continue. You see, there's the target rate. They wanted a 2%. But look at it, it ticked up again. Now they go, oh, that's not good news. We can't take our foot off the gas. In other words, we can't give a rate cut now because inflation appears to be going up. People, even though they're all battling, everyone says they're battling, everyone is spending and splurging on vacations, buying cars, which so we're battling, but we're buying this stuff. So it seems like the gap between wealthy and poor is getting wider and wider, right? So it's not under control yet. No. So Mike Frantantoni, chief economist of the MBA, the mortgage, they didn't change the federal target at its May meeting as incoming data regarding the strength of the economy and stubbornly high inflation have resulted in a shift in the timing of the first. They wanted it to be a cut right now on the 1st of May, but that little uptick scared everybody off, right? You can see literally from the 22nd of March, when inflation was really high, they started to raise 25 basis points, 50 basis points, 75 basis points. And eventually they started raising it a little less, and they haven't raised it since July of last year, right? Because the economy, they made it more expensive to borrow money, and the inflation rate started to come down. So there hasn't been any more price hikes, and they're expecting now price cuts. But when? That's the question. So Jerome Powell, reducing policy restraint too soon or too much could result in a reversal of progress that we've seen in inflation and ultimately require even tighter policy, which we don't want. So it's probably a good idea for them to not do a price cut right now, which means the interest rates stay a little higher. But at least they calmed it down and said, we're not going to be hiking it up, which calmed the market down again. Volatility, you see? You can see here in the consumer price index history, which I think the CPI is coming out next week or the week after. So a new set of data will be coming out. Look what happened in the 1970s. Inflation was high and they raised the cost of borrowing money and it dropped all the way down and they took their foot off the gas too soon and it got even worse. So they're worried that that's what's going to be happening again. Hence the reason for them backing away from doing a price cut and saying everything is back under control, and you get that rebound effect. So they've got precedent, they've got history to show that being a little too casual about this doesn't work. Jerome Powell, again, my personal forecast is that we will begin to see further progress on inflation. In other words, we'll get back on track. I don't know that it will be sufficient. I don't know that it won't. See that? Does not. I think we're going to have to let the data lead us on that. So CPI is coming out next week. Again, everyone is watching because this is like a Gordian knot of volatility that causes the rest to go up and down. There was a 70% chance that the Feds will cut at the September meeting, right? 1.3% thinks that there's going to be a 75 basis points cut. 19% think it's going to be a 50 basis point cut. 25 think, almost 50% think it's going to be a 25, and 30% of the people think there will be no cut in September either. In other words, the interest rates are going to be staying more or less where they are now, probably for the rest of the year, according to 30% of people. Opinions, right? Everyone's got them. Look at the, just based upon the Fed's last meeting, look at this here. 90% thought they will probably cut the funds in September, going into the meeting. This was the meeting. And then on the 24th of April, 70% thought they might cut. On the day before the Fed met, only about 46% thought they will cut the Fed's rate in September. Just coming out of it this week, it's back up to 70% of people who think they will cut the rate in September. You can see how volatile the market is. No one quite knows. So it's time to stop focusing on the interest rates. It's almost like it's out of our control at this point. So according to Jerome Powell, I think it's unlikely that the next policy rate move will be a hike. That was nice to calm the markets down. That it will probably be a cut, but it won't be a hike. So these are the mortgage rate projections, ladies and gents. Again, from all the august bodies that we follow, Fannie Mae, MBA, National Association of Realtors, and the average of all three at the end of this quarter, at the end of this year, 6.43%. By the end of 25, 6.17%. Again, conservative. The trajectory is down. However, this is probably realistic. Is this a vicious market or is it just a return to normal? I'm not sure what the answer is because prices continue to go up. So affordability is an issue. What you can say with certainty is if you show this to your clients, the actual is there and the projected is down. And this is according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. This might bring a little bit of confidence to say, it's not going to go back to the COVID years. It's not going to happen. The trajectory is down. Get into the market because that's the way we build wealth. Right? This is the percent of respondents. Mortgage rates will go down in the next 12 months. Well, just in February, 35% thought it was going to go down. Now, in March, only 29% think it's going to go down. But still, many people think the rates are going to come down. Anyway, I'm just letting you know what the market is saying. As I wrap this up, Bright MLS, expect rates to come down in the second half of 2024, but remain above 6% this year. Even a modest drop in rates will bring both more buyers and more sellers into the market. And if it's already happening, this bodes well for us. It bodes really well. So a little reminder to all of you, and you will get a copy of this presentation. If all of you listening to my crazy accent and here in the room, if you can explain these top 5 slides that are coming up, you'll be in charge of the narrative, okay? New listings above last year's level, 2024 versus 2023. Good news, inventory coming back to the market. So every time you look at these slides, say, that's the fact, what's the benefit? What's the benefit of this slide? The benefit is the market is coming back, sellers have decided it's time to move on, maybe let's go and be closer to the grandkids. We're sick and tired of being away. It's time to move and go and be, whatever it is, give it a benefit. Give it your personality. 2024 home price forecasts. You can see the average of all 7 on the left. Everyone is predicting an increase. Price forecast, an increase. Right? Time to get into the marketplace. This is doing really well. Time to build your wealth. Estimated home price performance over the next 5 years. Look, from 2024 up to 2028, an average return to normal price appreciation every single year. Real estate does well in the United States and has almost every year except for 2 years in the last 78 years. This is what happens. It's time to get into the market. And look over here. If you bought a $400,000 home at the end of 5 years, your home is now worth $483,385 based upon the projected price appreciation. And as Gary's pointed out before, suddenly 5 years later, you're $83,000 wealthier. Add your deposit that you put down on it as well. Add that you've been paying down your mortgage as well. You're probably closer to being $150,000 wealthier. This is good news. Can we explain this? Can we control the narrative? Again, in those slides is a reminder of what the projection is of the interest rates. And you can see once the interest rate goes into the 7s, the demand becomes weaker. As soon as the interest rates start coming back down into the 6s, it gets better, limited into the lower 6s, it's good. So this bodes well. But then again, competition becomes steeper at that point. It's time to get in. You can refinance later if you are in good standing. So you can stop sharing for me, Kylie. I appreciate it. And you will all receive an editable version of these slides to use with your buyers and sellers. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Roger. Okay. Any questions for Roger?
I do have one. I've been really interested in seeing new home build figures, and I haven't really seen anything. Do you have anything? I mean, I'm just wondering, for new build, what is going on?
Alexander, and thank you for your question. In general, we start from a 10,000-foot view. Builders are on average 13 to 14 years behind the population growth in the country. So they can be building as fast as they wish. They're not going to catch up for the next 5 to 6 years. So the demand for housing is going to continue to be extraordinarily high. But allied to that, the demand for smaller houses is increasing dramatically, and builders are building much, much smaller homes at a more reasonable price point to increase affordability or to help with affordability for first-time home buyers. So that's all I have at this point in time, but I do know that builders are building like crazy at the moment. They're
Okay.
completing their phases, but they are still so way behind just the population growth, almost 13 years behind.
Okay. I have just a prospect at this point, a developer, and I had sent out a solicitation letter asking what their plans were, because I am one of those people that would like to move to a smaller house, and it's within my neighborhood, and I would love to stay in my neighborhood. But I have nothing to give him as far as like, you need to do this now because you're 14 years behind,
Right. Right, I understand.
So, I mean, is there a place I can go to get sort of just graphics data? I mean, just to give him an idea that I am a little bit in earnest of this, because I'm one of those people that would like to actually make that change.
Alex, and thank you for the suggestion and the request. Allow me 48 hours to do some homework. I've got some really good contacts at the Master Builders Association, and I do have access to graphs and charts and trends, which may be helpful to you.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You're so very welcome, Alex. Thank you for the question.
Okay, any other questions? All righty, I think we've about finished for the day. We're an hour into the meeting, so that's good timing. We'll probably have a meeting on next Wednesday in Sonoma, from which we'll broadcast. We'll alternate between here and Sonoma Wednesdays and Thursdays, so that would be the plan. For next week, we will not have contract training tomorrow, since we had the legal update on Monday. You've already spent 2.5 hours on that. So carry on and contact your clients. What I heard something yesterday, which I'm still pondering, but we've been told about developing our value proposition, and the party who brought this up said, what we really need to find out is what values our clients appreciate. We need our own values, but they may not be interested in our value proposition. They want something that meets, that they appreciate in the values that we provide. So how do we find that out? We ask questions. What are they looking for in a real estate agent? Rather than just giving them, oh, this is what I do as a real estate agent, we ask them, what are you looking for in a real estate agent? Find out what values they appreciate, rather than just feed them the values that we have. So that's kind of what I'm dwelling on there. All righty. Thanks for tuning in. We'll send out this broadcast later today or tomorrow, and enjoy the weekend ahead, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you.